Warning: the following depictions of paintings involve disturbing images of atrocities committed against indigenous people in the Americas. Parental and viewer discretion is advised. This is not for the faint of heart. Depictions of Written History: 13 Sins in the Name of Christ by Chancel Landry. Atrocities at Turtle Islands. A Brief Account of the Destruction of the Indies by Bartolomé de las Casas. Bartolomé de las Casas was born in Seville, Spain on November 11, 1484. When first arriving to the Americas, he was a conquistador. However, sometime after he gave up all his belongings to become a clergyman, he spoke against Spanish atrocities on the indigenous people of the Americas. Title: The Birth and Legacy of Europeans in the Americas. Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, which the Spaniards no sooner perceived, but they mounted on generous steeds, well weaponed with lances and swords, began to exercise their bloody butcheries and stratagems, and overrunning their cities and towns, spared no age or sex, nay, not so much as women with child, but ripping up their bellies, tore them alive in pieces. Today these islands are once again pristine and grand. Just another day, enjoying life on stolen land. Title: Hunting for Nobility and Prosperity. Hispaniola, Dominican Republic. They laid wagers among themselves who should with a sword at one blow cut or divide a man in two, or which one of them should decollate or behead a man with the greatest dexterity. Nay, farther, which should sheath his sword in the bowels of a man with the quickest dispatch and expedition. Sit back, relax, and enjoy vacations planned. Just remember, generations ago, there was blood spilt on this beach of sand. Title: Favorite pastime of the so-called civilized. Hispaniola, Dominican Republic. They snatched young babies from the mother's breasts and then dashed out the brains of those innocents against the rocks. Millions of lives were lost to religion and greed. All in the name of Christ, they would adamantly decree. Title: Mass murder comes as a surprise. Hispaniola, Dominican Republic. Others they cast into the river, scoffing and jeering them, and called upon their bodies when falling with derision, the true testimony of their cruelty, to come to them, and inhumanely exposing others to their merciless swords, together with the mothers that gave them life. These waters have washed away innocent blood. Who cares, as long as it wasn't your family that got brutally clubbed. Title: Burned alive in the name of Christ. Hispaniola, Dominican Republic. I once saw 4 or 5 of their most powerful lords laid on these gridirons, and thereon roasted, and not far off, 2 or 3 overspread with the same commodity, man's flesh. But the shrill clamors which were heard there being offensive to the captain by hindering his repose, he commanded them to be strangled with a halter. The executioner, whose name and parents at Seville are not unknown to me, prohibited the doing of it, but stuffed gags into their mouths to prevent the hearing of the noise, he himself making the fire till that they died. when they had been roasted as long as he thought convenient. Title: Children favorited and given pedophiles after a job well done. Zeragua is the fourth kingdom and Leogan in Haiti. The warlike engagements being over and the inhabitants all swept away, they divided among themselves the young men, women, and children, reserved promiscuously for that purpose. One obtained 30, another 40, to this man 100 were disposed, to the other 200, and the more one was in favor with the domineering tyrant, which they styled governor. Columbus came here by accident and gave us a name. We are not Indians, a mistake that has never been changed. Title: Demons of Genocide Stealing Land in the Indigenous Way of Life. Some province in Spain, Mexico. A Spaniard hunting and intent on his game fancied that his beagles wanted food, and to supply their hunger, snatched a young little babe from the mother's breast, cutting off his arms and legs, cast a part of them to every dog, which they having devoured, he threw the remainder of the body to them. It would take a criminal mind to think of such things. Christ was the last thing these savages could bring. Title: Opening the Gates of Hell on the Innocent. New Spain, Mexico. The Spaniards presently consult about their slaughter or castigation, as they term it, that they might fill every corner of this region by their cruelties and wicked deeds with terror and consternation. For in all the countries that they came, they took this course, that immediately at their first arrival they committed some notorious butcheries, which made those innocent sheep tremble with fear. Mass murder and hatred today are reminiscent of the past. Just watch the news, it'll leave you aghast. Title: European Practices of the Bottomless Want that Can Never Be Filled. Archipelago de las Perlas, Gulf of Panama. Sometimes they rise up to the superficie of water with nets full of oysters for respiration and air. But if these miserable creatures stay but a little more than is ordinary to rest themselves, the hangman is immediately upon them in a canoe or a small boat, who, beating them with many stripes, drag them by the hair of the head under water, that they may drudge again at their explication or pearl fishing. The descendants still reap what their ancestors confiscated through larceny and theft. The consequences is there's nothing left. Title: Criminal Minds and Psychopathic Acts in the Name of Christ. Peru. Friar Marcus de Zalicia. Testimony. But a presbyter, Ocana by name, chanced to snatch a little baby out of the fire, which being observed by a Spaniard, he tore him out of his arms and threw him into the midst of the flames, where he was with the rest soon burnt to ashes. Columbus is looked upon as a pious man. Why did he not stop the genocide, is the question at hand. Title: Acts of the So-Called Civilized. The Spaniards first set sail to America, not for the honor of God, or as persons moved and merited thereunto by fervent zeal to the true faith, nor to promote the salvation of their neighbors, nor to serve the king, as they falsely boast and pretend to do, but in truth only stimulated and goaded on by insatiable avarice and ambition, that they might forever domineer, command, tyrannize over the West Indians, whose kingdoms they hope to divide and distribute among themselves. They brought racism and murder to make us disappear. Nothing has changed in the last 500 years. Title: For those that say that was then and this is now. The continents of North and South America was born of violence and is credited through the European invasion. We survived because it was not in Creator's plan to have us annihilated from the part of the earth He gave to us and placed us in. It is easy to identify the countries of the immoral perpetrators who came, for we use the stamp they gave us through colonialized names. Title: Catholic and Protestants continue the atrocities in the United States. Sand Creek Massacre. I would like to say that these atrocities ended in South and Central America. However, sad to say that all this continued in North America. After surviving a plethora of diseases brought over by the first Europeans, their wicked acts of savagery continued in North America through the European descendants of Catholics and Protestant people. Many have suffered racism in this society through wickedness, always putting natives last. We are still the invisible indigenous. This has been a Blue Wolf production by Chance L. Landry.